Raila Amolo Odinga CGH. Born on 7 January 1945, was a Kenyan politician who served as Prime Minister from 2008 to 2013. He was the Member of Parliament, MP, for Langata constituency from 1992 to 2013. He was also the leader of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party. Odinga ran for President of Kenya 5 times, with none of his attempts being successful. Each time, Odinga alleged electoral fraud. In 1997, Odinga finished third as the candidate of the National Development Party. He ran again for the presidency under the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM, and lost to Mwai Kibaki. In 2013, 2017, and 2022, Odinga was the runner-up as a candidate for the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy, CORD, National Super Alliance, NASA, and Azimio la Umoja, respectively. After his loss, Odinga filed for petition against President-elect William Ruto at the Supreme Court of Kenya. The court decided against him, and Odinga pledged
was
to
a
respect
member of
its
the Luo
ruling.
ethnic group, was born at the Anglican Church Missionary Society Hospital in Masino, Kisumu District, Nyanza Province, on the January 7, 1945. His parents were Mary Juma Odinga and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, who served as the first Vice President of Kenya under Jomo Kenyatta. He went to Kisumu Union Primary, Maranda Primary in Bondo and Maranda High School, where he studied until 1962, when he was transferred by his father to years at the Hada Institution, which trained foreign students in the German language and was part of the philological faculty at the University of Leipzig in East Germany. He received a scholarship that in 1965 sent him to the Technische Hochschule, Technical College, of Magdeburg, now a part of Otto von Guericke University Magdeburg, in the German Democratic Republic. In 1970, he graduated with a master's degree in mechanical engineering. Germany during the Cold War. As a Kenyan, he was able to visit West Berlin through Checkpoint Charlie. When visiting West Berlin, he used to smuggle goods not available in East Berlin and bring them to his friends in East Germany. According to his book Flames of Freedom, Odinga showed that he was given a Christian name Raila upon baptism. His father Jaramogi Oginga had refused to give him a Christian name. Jaramogi wrote to a Christian priest informing him of his intention to baptize his 3 children with purely African names, who included Omoda Agala, Obiru Odinga, and Raila to be baptized. The priest accepted on condition that he first gets them Christian names as those already recognized in the church.
Jaramogi refused the set conditions, which made the priest refuse to baptize the 3 children, including Raila Odinga. Him being a traditional African man, Jaramogi had wanted his children to have names of illustrious ancestors, which the bishop strongly declined. He had wanted them to be named Ingonge Molo Obiru, Raila Amolo Odinga, and Jaya Anglican Christian in the Church Missionary Society, CMS. In his childhood, Odinga later became a born-again Christian. Odinga was married to Ida Odinga, Ida Enyango Oyu. They lived in Karen, Nairobi, and had a second home at Central Farm in Siaya County. The couple had 4 children: Fidel, born in 1973, died 2015, Kama, Rosemary, born 1977, Raila Jr., born 1979, and Winnie, born 1990. Fidel was named after Fidel Castro and Winnie after Winnie Association Mandela. Football for Luo Union, now Gor Mahia, as a midfielder. He was a supporter of English Premier League club Arsenal. Odinga was appointed by the African Union to mediate the 2010 to 2011 Ivorian crisis, which involved Alassane Ouattara and Laurent Gbagbo. Odinga wrote Flame of Freedom, a 1,040-page autobiography which talks about his life from childhood. It was launched on October 6, 2013 in Kenya and subsequently in United States on October 15, 2013. Was known by many names: the Fifth, Tinga, Hama, Baba, Jakam, Bagwambo, Joshua, Rao, the People's President, and Baba the Fifth. Returned to Kenya in 1970, and in 1971 he founded the Standard Processing Equipment Construction Erection Ltd., later renamed East African Spectre, the only company manufacturing liquid petroleum gas cylinders in Kenya. Odinga was appointed Group Standards Manager of the Kenya Bureau of Standards. After holding this position for 4 years, he was promoted to be the Deputy Director in 1978, a post he held until his 1982 detention. At 3 a.m. on Sunday, August 1, 1982, a group of soldiers from the Kenya Air Force led by Senior Private Hezekiah Ochuka attempted to overthrow the government of President Daniel Arap Moi. President Moi reorganized Kenya's security architecture, staffing it with his loyalists, and then he ensured a law was passed in parliament that gave him emergency powers while placing the provincial administration under the office of the president. Odinga was arrested and charged with treason after being accused of being among the masterminds of the 6 years later in February 1988 but was detained again that August. He was finally released in June 1989. In an era of unrelenting human rights abuse by the Kenyan government, Raila Odinga was placed under house arrest for 7 months after evidence seemed to implicate him along with his late father Oginga Odinga for collaborating with the plotters of a failed coup attempt against President Daniel Arap Moi in 1982, and thousands of rebel soldiers died in the coup. Several foreigners also died. Odinga was later charged with treason and detained without trial for 6 years. A biography released 14 years later in July 2006, apparently with Odinga's approval, indicated that Odinga was far more involved in the attempted coup than he had previously admitted. Some members of parliament in Kenya called for Odinga to be arrested and charged, but the statute of limitations had already passed and the information contained in the biography did not amount to an open confession on his part. Among some of his most painful experiences was when his mother died in 1984, but the prison wardens took 2 months to inform February 6, 1988, only to be rearrested in September 1988 for his pro-democracy and human rights agitation at a time when the country continued to descend deep into the throes of poor governance and the despotism of single-party rule. Kenya was then, by law, a one-party state. His encounters with the authoritarian government generated an aura of intrigue about him, and it was probably due to this that his political followers christened him Nyagombo in Luo, meaning was released on June 12, 1989, only to be incarcerated again on July 5, 1990, together with Kenneth Matiba and former Nairobi Mayor Charles Rubia, both multi-party system and human rights crusaders. Odinga was finally released on June 21, 1991, and in October he fled the country to Norway amid indications that the increasingly corrupt Kenyan government was attempting to assassinate him. Without departure to Norway, the Forum for the Restoration of Democracy, FORD, a movement formed to agitate for the return of multi-party democracy to Kenya, was newly formed. In February 1992, Odinga returned to join FORD, then led by his father Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. He was elected vice chairman of the General Purposes Committee of the party. In the months running up to the 1992 general election, Kenya, led by Odinga's father Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, and Ford Aselai led by Kenneth Matiba. Odinga became Ford Kenya's deputy director of elections. Odinga won the Lang'ata constituency parliamentary seat, previously held by Philip Liki of Kanu. Odinga became the second father of multi-party democracy in Kenya after Kenneth Matiba. When Jaramogi Oginga Odinga died in January 1994 and Michael Wamalwa Kijana succeeded him as Ford Kenya Odinga died in January 1994. Michael Wamalwa Kijana succeeded him as Ford Kenya chairman. Odinga challenged him for the party leadership. The elections were marred by controversy, after which Odinga resigned from Ford Kenya to join the National Development Party in his first bid for the presidency. In the 1997 Kenyan general election, Odinga finished third after President Moi, the incumbent and Democratic Party candidate Mwai Kibaki. He, however, retained his position as the 1997 election. Odinga appeared alongside Kibaki to denounce the results, saying that they were rigged. In the subsequent months, however, he forged a deal to support Moi, entering into a cooperation deal between his party, NDP, and Moi's KANU party. He accepted a position in Moi's cabinet as energy minister, serving from June 2001 to 2002, during Moi's final term. In 2002, the NDP and KANU formally merged, with the NDP being dissolved and the new party being dubbed the elections held later that year. He was elected the party's Secretary General, replacing Joseph Komotho. In 2002, much to the chagrin of Raila Odinga and many other hopefuls in the party, Daniel Arap Moi endorsed Uhuru Kenyatta, son of Kenya's first president Jomo Kenyatta but a relative newcomer in politics, to be his successor. More publicly asked Raila Odinga and others to support an affront by many of the party loyalists who felt they were being asked to make way for a newcomer who, unlike them, had done little to build the party. Odinga and other KANU members, including Kalonzo Musyoka, George Saitoti, and Joseph Komotho, opposed this step, arguing that the then 38-year-old Uhuru was politically inexperienced and lacked the leadership qualities needed to maintaining that the country's leadership needed to pass to the younger generation as well as someone that more could rely on personally. Dissent ran through the party with some members openly disagreeing with Moi, despite his reputation as an autocrat. It was then that the Rainbow Movement was founded, comprising disgruntled KANU members who exited KANU. The exodus, led by Odinga, saw most big names fleeing the party. More was left with his hand-picked successor almost alone, with the party reduced to an empty shell with poor electoral prospects. The Rainbow Movement went on to join the Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, which later teamed up with opposition Mwai Kibaki's National Alliance Party of Kenya, NAK, a coalition of several other parties, to form the National Rainbow Coalition. Opposition Super Alliance would fail to unite and rally behind a common candidate as in previous occasions and thus easily hand victory to the government. Odinga declared Kibaki Tosha, Swahili for Kibaki is sufficient, an endorsement of a Kibaki ticket. This resolved the matter of candidacy and NAK went on to defeat Mui's protégé Uhuru Kenyatta. Kibaki himself had been injured in a road accident prior to the election, leaving Odinga and others to lead the campaign. President Kibaki did not appoint Odinga as prime minister in the new government, contrary to a pre-election memorandum of understanding. Kenya's constitution had no provision for prime minister yet, neither did he give LDP, Odinga's faction, half of the cabinet positions as per the MOU. He instead sought to entrench and increase his own NAK's side in cabinet, even appointing MPs from the opposition parties, KANU and Ford People, to the President Kibaki did not appoint Odinga as prime minister in the new government, contrary to a pre-election memorandum of understanding. Kenya's constitution had no provision for prime minister yet, neither did he give LDP, Odinga's faction, half of the cabinet positions as per the MOU. He instead sought to entrench and increase his own NAK's side in cabinet, even appointing MPs from the opposition parties, KANU and Ford People, to the power abuse and an unaccountable leadership. This proposed document was called the Boma's Draft, but Kibaki's government opposed it and withdrew from the process in March 2004. Kibaki's government went on to write a new proposed constitution which had a reduced role for parliament and the new prime minister compared with the Boma's draft, instead retaining more powers for the presidency. Went on to campaign with his LDP cabinet colleagues on the referendum, no side opposing the president and his lieutenants in a bruising countrywide campaign. When the document was put to a referendum on November 21, 2005, the government lost by a 57% to 43% margin. Embarrassingly for Kibaki, out of 8 provinces, only one central province where his tribe, the Kikuyu, are dominant, voted yes for the document, isolating his own tribe from the rest of Kenya, exposing his campaign as referendum. Kibaki sacked the entire cabinet on the November 23, 2005 when it was reconstituted 2 weeks later. Odinga and several of his allies were not given a role, while many others from the LDP group and Ford Kenya refused the posts they were offered.